Hey everyone, welcome to all of you that are here live, watching later, or live streaming with us on eXp Family Tree. Reminder, this is open to anyone, so you might be seeing this out on my YouTube or probably maybe even on David's platforms. And so this is for any real estate agent who wants to continue to level up. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Cari Briner. I am a real estate coach and leader, and I'm here with guests that I met through TikTok. I love social media for a whole bunch of reasons. One of them is making some great connections. And David and I connected on the phone and shortly realized we had a lot in common. And I think a lot of real estate coaches do have the same thing in common, which is really a desire to serve others and really loving this industry and wanting to help people in the industry. And David pours out his information to anybody and everybody. He'll go ahead and put his information in the chat. I'll go ahead and copy and paste that back into the live stream. So if you're watching later, we'll make sure it's on my YouTube channel as well, so that you know how to reach him if you like the content from today. But today we're just going to go ahead and learn from David. If you are on Instagram, he has an Instagram handle. You can find him on TikTok. He does a lot of great videos, and I'd highly encourage you to do that. And so, David, today we're going to talk about listings, but we're going to talk primarily about being prepared and kind of what you do up front, and pre-qualifying, and how that helps our agents and agents in general to have more success with listings, right?
Absolutely.
We're in an interesting time, and we kind of knew this when we scheduled this, but we all know that interest rates are planning to be decreasing throughout the year. Just because the Fed reduced those rates yesterday doesn't necessarily mean it impacts mortgage rates immediately. However, they did say verbally that they are planning to reduce interest rates across the board, all of the meetings they have for the remainder of the year, which means more times. That helps consumers because just so you know, your credit card rates are going down right now. Other interest rates that you're paying on student loans, et cetera, they're all going down because of the Fed's meeting. And if they continue to drop rates, all of those things are going to go down. So that does indirectly affect your ability to purchase. And then we should see the interest rates for mortgages follow throughout now and the end of the year. What that means is that there's going to be more buyers out there. We're going to be back into an inventory shortage. And so you going and focusing on talking to prospective sellers is a really good idea, because we're going to need homes for these buyers to purchase, but it's also an opportunity for them to have more demand again, which means for sellers, probably more equity, and it could be a great time to buy. Obviously, we don't know what future holds. We only know what's going on today. But if we know what's going on today, it seems like it certainly would be a good time for somebody to consider listing their property. So this is timely, and I'm excited for you guys to learn from David. So if you guys are watching live and you want to jump on the Zoom, I did post the Zoom link as a reminder below again. So go ahead and join us anytime. We don't mind. And David, will you please start out just giving us a really short synopsis of who you are, how you got into coaching? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, so my name's David Radney, and I go by D-Rad. I am a prospecting coach, and I will tell you, I got into coaching because 19 years ago when I started in real estate, I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a coach to guide me, and there were so many things I could have learned the easy way, and I had to learn it the hard way. So my whole goal is to be the coach and mentor for you guys that I needed when I started in real estate. And I live my life on this philosophy. If you're familiar with Zig Ziglar, his quote is, when you help enough people get what they want, you'll always get what you want. And so it's not about me, it's about you. It's about helping you, have a better business, to have a listing focused business, because I believe it's all about the 3 L's: leads, listings, and leverage. And so I want to talk to you about, when you have those leads, especially with the seller, how to go out there and actually turn that into a listing. So I live in New Jersey. I appreciate you guys having me here today, and join the Zoom. I would love the interaction.
Yes. Yes. Awesome, David. Great. So you do have access to share the screen if you want to. You don't have to. This can be as informal or formal as you want.
Right.
So I would love to get into the content today. We typically plan for, an hour. So we still have a good 50 minutes. We don't have to use it all, just depending upon your timing and the questions. So you can take it away.
Okay, so what I will say is, what I'm going to be sharing with you guys is a pre-qualification checklist. If anyone wants a copy of that, you can reach out to me. I'd be happy to send you over a PDF of it. It's really easy. I probably won't share my screen. I'll just have a conversation. The reason why it's so important for me to talk to you guys about this is I remember what it's like being on the phone every single day. I was on the phone from 9 until 12, 5 days a week, making call after call after call after call. There was a lot of rejection there. And I
Yes.
had to get used to the no's. And I got so many no's that when I got a yes, I dropped everything and I would run straight to their house because I was so excited somebody wanted to meet with me. I'm sure you guys know what that feels like. You do that enough times and you start to realize that half of those appointments were a waste of time because those people were just tire kickers. They weren't really serious about selling their home. I was just so excited to have a opportunity to meet with someone. I'm looking at everybody in my office putting listings up on the board and posting on social media. I wanted to be part of that as well. So I would just run out to the appointment, and I learned very quickly that I needed to slow down and actually take time and pre-qualify and make sure that the sellers that I got in front of were ready, willing, able, motivated, and coachable on top of that. So that's what I want to start off talking about. Before we get into the pre-qualification checklist, I want to talk to you about why it's important for you to pre-qualify, why I pre-qualified in my business. And again, you want to make sure you're talking to someone who's motivated. You have to understand their motivation and their timeline. And I have to say this, not just I want to move to California by June. I want to move to California. Why is that important? What will that do for you? How will you feel once you're actually there? And then the timeline. Because you guys know the saying, logic makes people think, emotion makes people act. Yeah. If they're selling, they know they have to hire a real estate agent, right? However, when you tap into that emotional reason behind the move, you connect with them in a way where they want to work with you because they see you care about what's important to them. So the pre-qualification is really important. You also want to uncover objections before you arrive. Cari, I don't know about you. I don't want to show up at the appointment and find out they have a relative or a friend in the business. I want to know that before I get there so that I'm ready to handle that objection when I'm actually there. So the pre-qualification happens, guys, so that you can uncover their questions and their objections before you get to the appointment. Here's a caveat though. When they give you an objection, you're not going to answer that on the phone. You're not going to answer their questions. Your response will be, great question. I'll make sure I cover that first thing when I stop by your house. You just want to find out what the questions are and what the objections are so that you can be prepared. The other reason we want to pre-qualify is to set ourselves apart from other agents because most agents skip that step. And when you take the time, it's like going to see a doctor. You don't just get in to see the doctor. You have to be weighed, your blood pressure. There are steps that you have to take before you get into that doctor. So for us as a professional, there are steps you have to take before you get in front of me, pre-qualifying being one of them. So it helps you set yourself apart from other agents. And lastly, it protects your greatest asset, your time. Yeah. You don't want to waste time preparing a CMA, driving to someone's house, spending an hour there, driving back home, just to find out they weren't motivated, right? So this will save you a lot of time. So I want to get, and the last thing, knowing your competition.
Yeah.
If you know who they're interviewing before you get there, guess what that allows you to do? Your homework. Look at that other agent. What's their list price to sales price ratio? What's their day on market? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Have they sold anything before? Do they sell in the area? It gives you an opportunity to prepare. So when you're at that listing appointment and they say, well, David, thanks for coming out. We still need to interview so-and-so. I can say, well, I'm so happy to hear you say that. Here's some information. Let me show you how I compare to that agent. And a lot of times you can take that listing and cancel that listing appointment with the other agent because you took the time to do your homework and you can show them why you're the clear choice. So those are the reasons why I pre-qualify. And I thought it was important to cover those before we get into the questions because a lot of people aren't doing it. And it's either because they don't know how to do it, they don't understand the benefit of it, or if I'm being real with you guys, I think a lot of you don't do it because you really don't want to know that person's not serious. You're just happy to have an appointment. You're happy to be able to say, I have a listing appointment, and you just want to get out there and go. Yeah. Stop wasting your time. Pre-qualify. All right. We ready to jump into it?
Yes.
All right. So what I'm going to do is just go through, Cari, and go through the pre-qualification questionnaire and talk to you about why I'm asking certain questions and how I set this up. And if you find value from what I'm covering, again, my information's here. You can, DM me on Instagram or TikTok. I'll send over the questionnaire for you. So the first thing I do once someone agrees to meet with me and they say, David, listen, great, come out Wednesday at 6 p.m. The first thing I say is, before I come out, there are a number of questions I need to ask you. Okay. And they'll say, sure. And here's the first question. And some of you guys may not agree with this. Let me tell you why I ask it. Here's the question. If what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident that I can sell your home, are you planning on listing your home with me Wednesday at 6 p.m.? Why would I ask that question? Number one, I'm closing. I'm closing even before I get there. But I'm asking that question because I want to bring up all the questions and objections. David, I'm not sure. It depends on the price. It depends on what your commission is. Well, we're not going to make a decision that night because we have other interviews. They're going to give me the information I need so I'm prepared when I show up. I trust that that makes sense. And so once I have that information, the next question that I feed right into, are you planning on interviewing other agents for the opportunity of selling your home? It may be a yes or no answer. However, if they say yes, guess what the follow-up question needs to be? Who are they? Who are you interviewing? A lot of people will tell you, if you phrase it that way, who are you interviewing? Not, do you mind if I ask? You want to say, who are you interviewing? And they'll answer you. If they're not comfortable telling you the agent's name, and sometimes that happens, then you at least want to find out, what company they work for and what office they're located out of. And that way you can do a, broker metrics report and find out a little bit more information on at least the company. However, I will tell you 90% of the time they gave me the agent's information they were interviewing. It allowed me to go and do research so that I could be prepared. So then we go into motivation a little bit. If you're doing your script correctly, you already should know their motivation. That should have happened when you're going through your for sale by owner script or your expired script. However, in my experience, sometimes when you're going through your initial script, they tell you, hey, we're moving for this reason. However, once they've committed to meeting with you and you're going back through and pre-qualifying, tell me, why are you moving again? Sometimes the truth comes out. Actually, we're getting a divorce, and they'll give you some additional information. So I find with pre-qualifying, even if you feel you know the motivation, go over it again. Tell me again, where are you moving to? Don't fill in the blanks for them. Let them say it and make sure it matches up with the information you have in your notes. And then also your time frame. Make sure nothing's changed. Make sure the time frame is still the same. And then you continue to move on with the next question, which is, when I see you, how much do you want to list your home for? And be quiet. Let them answer. Why are we asking this question? I want to know if this seller has a pulse on the market. I want to know if they go to the open houses and they're aware that homes in their neighborhood sell for 700,000. Because if I know that and I ask them how much they want to list their home for and they tell me $1 million, we need to have a tough conversation before I spend time coming to your house. So asking that question allows me to understand if they have an understanding of the market. And no matter what they say to that question, I say, well, as a professional real estate agent, I study homes and prices every day. Therefore, I assume that you'll list with me at a price that will cause your home to sell. Correct? When I say correct, what is that? Anybody want to tell me when I say correct, what did I just do there as part of scripting? I'm just curious if anybody knows. I'll give you the answer.
Nikki.
Tie down.
Yeah.
Tie downs I want them agreeing with me, correct? And even if I'm on the phone, I'm always nodding my head because I want to be in the practice of nodding my head every time I use a tie down. And so my follow-up question is, well, what price won't you go below? So if they're telling me they think it's worth 700, but they won't go below 650, I kind of know what they're thinking financially. So it gives me the information I need. Hi, Nikki.
Hello.
All right. Hey. So next question, it may be a little uncomfortable. How much do you own the property? You want to know that information. Some questions are uncomfortable. However, your income is in direct proportion with your ability to have uncomfortable conversations. Get used to it. Ask the questions. It's like going to a professional. The doctor's going to ask you, do you smoke? How many cigarettes a week? Do you drink? How many drinks a week? They're asking questions so that they can get a feel for who you are and what they need to talk to you about in regards to your health. You're doing the same thing in regards to real estate. How much do you own the property? Have you ever thought about selling it yourself? Is the next question. Why is that question important, you might be asking? It's important because you want to know, are they actually serious about meeting with you about selling their home? Or are they a for sale by owner that does what most for sale by owners do and call 2 or 3 agents and have you come out and give them a price range, and they end up using your CMA as a way to price their property. I'm not going to spend my time coming to your house if you tell me, yeah, I'm thinking about being a for sale by owner. I might just hop on RPR, do a quick CMA, give you a range. Here you go. Good luck. And follow up with you as a FSBO. I'm not going to come out and meet with you if you're telling me, yeah, I need you for a price. I'll give you a price, but it's not going to be a detailed CMA that I would give a client. I hope you guys understand that. Because why would they buy the cow if you're giving the milk away for free, as my grandfather used to say. and it's true. It's true. Yeah. So then I have them describe their home. Please describe your home for me. And I can lead them through questions. What I tend to do is the MLS worksheet that we use to fill out to put our listings on the MLS. A lot of my questions come from that, because what I'm doing is building up information to run the CMA. Because I run my CMA before I typically see the house. So I get a lot of information from them when they describe the house. And also you can tell the way someone describes a house, kind of like their personality type. If they're just like, I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch, and they're not giving you a lot of detail, they're not a highly detailed person. But if they're breaking it down and telling you the size of their floorboards and giving you tons of detail, they're telling you when you come, you better have tons of detail in your CMA. So I like asking that question just to kind of figure out who I'm getting in front of. Now, something I didn't always include in my pre-qualification questionnaire, and I added it, in the last few years, and it's really served me and my clients well, are these 2 questions. Number 1, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when I come to your house, how do I win with you? And how do I lose with you? Those 2 questions are really important. And if I happen to just be pre-qualifying the wife, I might say, when I come out and meet with you, how do I win with your husband? How do I lose with your husband? And it's so interesting. The wife would tell me, like, he's one of those guys, just don't beat around the bush, shoot him straight, be very direct. And they'll tell me what I need to know so that when I show up, I can say to the husband, can I be direct with you? And I'm using the information I got from the wife to actually engage the husband. And so and they'll tell you sometimes, don't BS me. Right. And so if we're having a conversation during the listing appointment, when we were on the phone, you told me to be direct and not BS you. This number that you want for the sale of your home, that's fantasy land. It's not going to sell there.
Yeah.
What we need to do is price it where the market is telling us so that we can get you to California by November. Right. So they're telling you how to communicate with them. They're telling you how to win the listing and how to lose the listing. You better be writing that down and taking notes. When they're giving you the information that's important to them, make sure you incorporate that into your listing presentations. So the other thing I say during the pre-qualification is I'll be sending over a packet of information. I don't know about you guys on the call. All of my clients send out a pre-listing packet. Before we show up for a listing appointment, that seller is getting something from us either in person, or we're going to send it, via email or virtually. And the pre-listing packet is your bio, who you are, who your company is, the steps you go through to sell a property, how you market the property. Your client testimonials are in there as well. And I have my clients include homework in that pre-listing packet. They tell the seller, here's the seller's disclosure, have it filled out, have a copy of your property survey, have 2 copies of your keys made, right? So we're giving that to them in advance. And I tell you what, when you show up at that listing appointment and they've read your pre-listing packet and you see 2 keys sitting on that table, guess what they're telling you? They're highly motivated and they're ready to make a move. It's up to you if it's going to be with you or not. And I tell you what, if I see those keys on the table, I'm not leaving that house until you sign with me. I'm just saying, because I know if I leave, somebody else is going to get that listing. So I love giving the homework because it's an indicator for me that these are really serious sellers that I'm getting in front of. They're coachable. They did the homework. They read the work. They're ready to go. Now it's up to me to show them why I'm the right agent. I trust that makes sense. And then lastly, do you have any questions before I arrive? And they'll ask you questions. The one I don't like to answer is, what's your commission? Why don't I answer that question? Because if I tell them my commission is X and someone comes in before me that's lower, they may not even meet with me. Great question. Commission's negotiable. We'll talk about that when I come out. To me, it sounds like what you put in your pocket is really important. So we're going to have that as part of our conversation. I really appreciate you. We'll talk about that when I come by your house Wednesday at 6 p.m. I don't answer their questions during the pre-qualification. I know what their questions are. And I always tell them we will answer that first thing when I come by for our meeting.
Mhm.
I tell them our meeting's going to take anywhere between 5 and 25 minutes. And I ask them if that's okay. And they say yes. And you guys are probably wondering, how can your meeting be only 5 minutes? Well, if you've done your job correctly and you understand motivation, you've pre-qualified, they've looked through your marketing packet, your pre-listing packet, they've looked you up for social proof, they've looked at your Instagram, they see that you sell properties and that you know what you're talking about. They may have made a decision before you even get there that you're going to get the listing. Mm-hmm. So when you show up for that listing and you say, do you want me to sell your home? And they say, yes, guess what? Stop talking and get the paperwork signed. Yeah. Right? I'm going to go over price and I'm going to get the paperwork signed. And so it can take 5 or 10 minutes. That's happened to me before, not many times. However, you better be prepared for it, because if they say yes and you keep talking, you might talk yourself out of getting a listing. Yeah. So be right, Cari?
It happens.
It happens. You have to be ready. So that's how I wrap it up. And one last thing that I say to them, and I think it's really important, will all decision makers be there for the meeting? I never want to go if it's only going to be one decision maker, because that requires either me to come back a second time, or I'm relying on that one person to relay everything I said to the second decision maker just the way I delivered it. And we all know that doesn't happen. It's like that old game of telephone where you would whisper in somebody's ear, and by the time it got down the road, the complete story had changed. So I want to get in front of both decision makers. And once they tell me both will be there, my final question is, can you think of any reason, personally or professionally, that would keep our meeting from happening Wednesday at 6 p.m.? Why do I do that? Because a lot of times people agree to a meeting Wednesday at 6 p.m. and they forget that their daughter has, soccer practice, or they have a class or another commitment. So when you say, can you think of any other reason, personally or professionally, a lot of times it causes them to stop, take a minute and think, open up their calendar and actually look and make sure that day works for them. And then I set up the appointment, confirm it, send them a Google Calendar invite, and I'm on my way to a listing appointment. I mean, how'd that sound, Marlene and Nikki? Like, did that sound pretty easy going through that pre-qualification? Is that something that you feel like, hey, if I have that script in front of me, that's a conversation I feel comfortable having?
I think it flows really well. I kind of came in at the middle of it, and I do apologize for that. But okay. Yeah, it flows. It flows really well, and it makes sense. I like it.
Do you work with sellers right now, Nikki?
I work with anybody.
Amen to that. We don't discriminate. We take that money.
No. I'm brand new. I'm a rookie. So I'm with anybody and everybody that I can get in front of. That's who I'm working with.
Love it. Nikki, I don't know if you do this, but if I could coach you on something that I see a lot of people do that are new, they always say, I'm brand new. I'm a rookie. Stop saying that. Because people, once you learn how to deliver the scripts correctly and how to pre-qualify and how to do the listing presentation, I've had people go through my push training program, get a listing, get it sold. And at the closing table, they're saying to the seller, thank you so much for this opportunity. This was my first deal. And the seller was like, really? I never would have guessed. Like, they don't know. If you know the material and you know how to deliver it, you could be brand new and they think you're a vet. So I would just say,
to be clear, I won't do it in front of clients. I don't do that. I definitely see, it's not a good idea. But when I'm talking to other, in this type of setting, I want, I think it's important that that I am new and I'm, trying to absorb everything.
I just don't want you to buy into that narrative that you're new. I don't want you saying it because that's your script that's in your head. Right? Your script needs to be, every day I'm learning and getting stronger at real estate, right?
Right.
Because if you keep saying you're new, you keep thinking you're new, and then you're going up against another agent that's a veteran and you don't believe you'll get it because you're new. Like, stop saying that in your head. I just want you to just say, I'm a realtor. Like, that's it.
Yeah. You're exactly right. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being coachable there. I feel very strongly about that, if you can't tell.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm definitely coachable. Yeah, it's important.
It really is. And I will tell you what we just covered. And if you reach out to me, I'll send you a copy of this pre-qualification questionnaire. One thing I would recommend is that you make it a standard that every listing appointment you have, you pre-qualify them. And I don't care if it's your mom, your neighbor, your best friend, you handle every single person the same and you pre-qualify them the same, no matter who they are. Mm-hmm. It's just part of the way this is your system, your checklist on what you do to get prepared for a listing appointment. That's right. So I want to pause and see if there are any questions. Cari, because I can't see anything on my end. So I don't know if anybody has questions.
There's a number of people watching. Remember, you guys, if you're watching live stream and you can comment below and I can ask the question for David. So chat here if you'd like. We have a number of people watching, but no questions yet. We just had another person join in. So
hey, Zelda.
Hi, Zelda.
Hey.
So I love what you said. I think the biggest thing is so often we leave everything for the appointment.
Yes.
And we really are setting ourselves up for just not being prepared and having to kind of address things on the fly, whereas we could really be doing much of that upfront, feeling a lot more confident and saving a lot of time.
Absolutely.
And one of the biggest things I've seen people do, and I've done this myself, is talk their way out of a sale. Just literally think that they have to over explain and talk and talk and talk and talk. And when they walked in the front door, they already had the deal.
Yep.
And they didn't realize it, didn't recognize it because they didn't have any pre-conversation. But also because they kind of came in feeling like I have to share everything because now I'm just shooting from the hip. But when you ask the questions up front, you know what's important to people. You don't have to share everything because not everything is important to everybody at the same time. And so you don't have to go into the details of things that don't matter to people, but how do you know if it matters unless you ask? And
Absolutely.
So I love the pre-listing packet. I love the pre-qualification conversation. Do you typically do that on the phone via Zoom? Do you do a combination of that, David, or?
So typically I just do it on the phone, the pre-qualification. The pre-listing packet, what I love to do, if I can, is push the listing appointment like a day out, because what I want to do is deliver that pre-listing packet in person. Let me tell you why. So the reason I like to deliver it in person, I want to be able to meet them. And since I'm dropping it off at their house, I'll say, hey, it would be really helpful if I could just do a quick preview of your home for 5 minutes so that when I'm running comparables, now I've seen your home. And by walking through the house, meeting the seller, it calms me down. When I show up for that listing appointment, I'm like, okay, we've already met. I know the house already. I've already been in here. I've already scoped out where we're going to sit. I know where the kitchen is. I know I want to sit here. I'm going to have them sit here. And I walk in and those jitters you tend to have kind of go away because you dealt with that when you dropped off the pre-listing packet. So I love doing that if it's possible. It's not always possible. When it is, I like to drop it off in person. If not, you can always email it. I have it saved as a Google Drive document as well, so I can text them a link and they can pull it up. However, I believe it's really important to go in and take a look at the house, get a feel for it, get a feel, because people will tell you on the phone, oh, my basement's finished. And then you go to the house and you realize they just have an area rug and a couch down there, and it's not really a finished basement. And so you have to end up changing your comps because you took their word for it versus going and verifying. So dropping off the pre-listing packet allows you to verify what they tell you. That's what I recommend.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Any comments or thoughts on that? Have any of you done that before? It's a great idea.
It makes all the difference in the world. And the biggest thing I will say too is you got to keep in mind, like in the beginning of the pre-listing packet, I like closing and getting yes several times before I'm actually closing for the sale. So by asking up front, when I come to your home, do you plan on listing your house with me? Right? If they say yes to that and you go to their home and they're hemming and hawing, then you know there's something you need to go back and cover. There's an issue there. If they immediately say yes, they would list with you, and you're at their house and they're not ready to sign, you need to sit down and really have another conversation with them. What else do I need to cover? What questions do you have? Because again, when you leave that house and they say, we'll be in touch, we'll let you know, typically they don't get back in touch. They list with someone else, and the next thing you know, the house is up on the MLS.
That's right.
So I like to not leave that house if I know they're committed, if I know they're serious. I will not leave. If they need to think it over, great. 3 heads are better than 2. Let's talk about it. I may go back over those comps again. I might say, I got to walk out to my car and return a few phone calls. I'll come back in 10 minutes and we're going to make a decision. If you list with me or if I take your listing. Like, there are a lot of different ways to handle it. I'm not leaving until I close at least 5 times. 5 is a number for me. After the 5th attempt to close and you're still not sure, you still want to interview the other person, I'll leave.
Yeah.
I give it 5 times.
Wow. That's good. I mean, I definitely think that, you know, the biggest thing that we find is people, okay, no problem. I'll let you think. I'll call you tomorrow. Like we don't try hard enough because we're uncomfortable. But if we realize what David is sharing, what that risk is, if we walk out the door, the chances of somebody else listing that property is so much higher. Then maybe we just say, do you guys need a little bit of time to chat about it? Totally understand. I have some calls to make. I'll go out to my car for 15 minutes.
Yes.
I'll come back in if we need to revisit anything. You know, and I used to always just like to ask the question, if, you know, should we just go ahead and sign? And if they're like, oh, we don't really know, then I would just say, no problem. Well, what specifically is holding you back from signing? Let's just go over all of the specifics because I must be missing something here. And it's probably my fault because I haven't, you know, made you feel comfortable or explained it thoroughly enough. So if they had 3 or 4, well, okay. And then you isolate that objection and actually go over it. Okay, now that's no longer an objection, is there anything else, or are you ready to sign? And sometimes if you just go through 2 or 3 things, at the end, if there's nothing else, it's just because they're nervous. They're probably going to just sign at that point. And you have to let people process through it. It's a big decision. And so sometimes I think we just move past it and don't let them process through or go over things again because we don't want to be pushy. But honestly, our job is to help people make a decision. And sometimes it's just hard to make a decision and we have to go over things a little bit more.
And our job, we're a salesperson. They're inviting us out to see if we can put their house on the market and close on one of their biggest assets. Yeah. If we just say, thank you, think it over, call me tomorrow, aren't we showing them that we don't know how to close? Yes. Show them that you're a salesperson, that you know how to close the deal. Yeah. And it requires you to say, ask for the deal more than once. I mean, think about it. I take my daughters to go buy shoes all the time. We walk in Dallas Shoe Warehouse. The salesperson says, hey, can I help you? What do we all say? No.
Nope, just looking.
Just looking. It's that reflexive no in the beginning, right? And then they may come back around. Do you need help? No, I'm good. Yep. When I find the shoe that I'm looking for and you come back around and it's like, oh yeah, I actually do need your help. Do you have this in the size? I wear 15s. Do you have this in the size 15? Typically the answer is no. However, it takes them 2 or 3 or 4 times to come back around for me to say, yes, I'm ready. And you have to do that at the house. You have to have 5 different ways that you're going to close before you walk away.
Yeah, I love that.
Let's think it over. Let's review your motivation. You said you needed to be in California to start this new job in November. What's it mean if this home doesn't get sold in time and you can't be out there? Oh, you have to go to California by yourself and your wife and the kids stay here? Is that the ideal situation? No. And you talk it through. Let's do the right thing and get this paperwork signed now so that I can get the entire family out to California in November. I know that I can get your property sold. I'm ready to go. Sign the paperwork. Like we just have to close. And we can do that when we've pre-qualified and we know what's important to them. We know what buttons to push because again, logic makes people think, emotion makes them act, which is why we pre-qualify.
Right.
All right.
Well, and here's the thing, you guys, that is something that you have to think about. And I think it's a great way to kind of end the call. And I did have a couple people ask, okay, so Anna said she's not on Instagram. She doesn't have TikTok. Would there be an email that she could reach out to you so that she could get the scripts from you or the questionnaire?
Absolutely. I'm going to type it in the chat right now. And Anna, I don't know you. However, I do know a lot of agents that aren't on TikTok and Instagram, and you don't have to be. Like you can still sell real estate and not be on social media. Yes. However, people are looking for social proof. I'm telling you, if I get a recommendation for a restaurant or anything, the first thing I do is go to Instagram, look it up, look at pictures. I'm looking at the reviews.
Yes.
You should really think about getting on Instagram unless you have a strong reason for not doing it. And I respect that if you do. It's a big part of building your business. I have an agent that I'm coaching with right now. She doesn't prospect on the phone. She posts videos on her social media. she's going to do just shy of $300,000 in GCI this year from social media.
Yeah.
So just think about that, Anna. I would encourage you to look into it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that you can be a top producer and not do a ton of social media as like your lead generation. But if people are looking you up, which I believe people do, they do Google you, they do look at your profiles. They want to know, like, who is this person? There has to be some sort of content out there.
Yes.
And even if it's just you showing yourself out and about in your community, celebrating some of your clients, maybe at closing, showing who you are as a human being, because people will know, like, and trust you as a human, but they also want to see that you're actually busy in real estate. If there's nothing out there for them to see, I think that your conversion will be lower because of that. So I agree with David. So you can find ways that you use social media strictly for business. If that's what it is, you have to show a little bit of your personal side, in my personal opinion, if you want it to work. But I've seen people be top producers and do the basic things that they need to on social, but there are still some basic things that they need to do. So David can coach you through that a little bit if you want to do a free call with him, but I did go ahead and post David's email on the live stream for you, Anna, and anybody else as well. And I also put David's Instagram and TikTok there for those of you that are on the call. Go ahead into the chat, grab his information, copy and paste it. If you reach out to him or DM him or email him, he'll send you the pre-qualification. You definitely want to follow David on the socials because he does a ton of video, and a lot of it is very, very informative, and you can pick up on scripts. You can pick up on strategies by watching the videos. So I would highly recommend that you do that. I have learned a lot from him, and I find that his information and content is really, really valuable out there. So I would encourage any of you to do that. We're going to go ahead and keep this live streamed as always here on our workplace and EXP Family Tree. So if you know a friend in the business here with us, tag them in this live stream so they can come back and watch it later if they had to miss the live. I'll go ahead and have this out on my out on my YouTube channel within 24 hours. And I'm sure David will post it out because I'm going to give him the recording as well. So you'll be able to find this again. If you want to hear some of the scripts that David shared with us, if you want to hear it again, which I love to hear things over and over again. It helps me. You know where you can find it. David, thank you so much for joining us. I love the way that you approach real estate, and you come from the lens of sales. Yes. Because what I was going to say before I read Anna's question, to kind of end the call is, if we want to be the best salesperson to sell their home, because this is what they're asking us to do. We're selling their home. Remember, after all, we are a salesperson. So those of you that are in real estate that don't want to be a salesperson, I'm afraid to tell you, you are. And it doesn't mean you need to be a cheesy salesperson, but you are a salesperson, and you can be a professional, and you can show people that you take control, and you know how to sell, and you know how to negotiate, and you know how to remove objections, and you know how to get people to make a decision. Because after all, when they enlist your services, that's what you actually have to do for them. And so you can remind them that this is why your conversation with them is the way it is. It's okay for you to be direct with them, to say, this might be a little bit uncomfortable for you because it might seem like I'm making you make a decision too hastily. I don't want to do that. I'll stay here as long as is necessary. I just think we need to look at the reasons that are holding you back, because you had me come out here for a reason. And I'm good at my job. I'm good at negotiations. I'm good at sales. I'm good at helping people make decisions and remove objections. And I'm here to do that for you today too. Obviously, you guys have a goal and you do want to sell your home and move to California. So I want to make sure that we talk about this and figure out how I can help you do that. So remember, you don't have to be pushy to the point where you're uncomfortable. And sometimes just sharing that makes you feel better about what you're doing. It gives you permission to be more direct with them and isolate these objections and stay a little bit longer and go make calls in your car for 15 minutes and not feel like you're intruding. Because after all, if you said that directly to them, I think almost everybody would say, well, yeah, you're right. Obviously, we want a strong negotiator. Yeah, we want a good salesperson to sell our home. We want somebody that knows what they're doing to be our realtor. So yeah, give us a few minutes and come back in and we'll talk about it. And you'd be surprised at people's responses. The majority of what you're feeling in your head right now when you hear David say this and that you're thinking is your mind just lying to you, because remember, thoughts aren't real things. And so what you think will actually happen based on what is going to happen are usually two very different situations. So just remember that when you're in those appointments.
I think that's such great advice. Can I invite them to one of my calls? Would that be okay?
Oh yes, please share all the information.
So I have a lot of different calls that I run. I don't want to confuse things. There's one that I believe is extremely important. I host it every Friday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. It's called Friday Script Practice. I put the link in the chat.
Awesome.
We are on Zoom, and what we do is we practice scripts and objection handlers. So when people say we need to think it over, or will you lower your commission, or I have another interview coming up, we role play how to overcome those objections. And so if you're comfortable and you want to role play and be part of the conversation, you can register and join the Zoom. If you just want to be a fly on the wall right now because you're not quite ready, I live stream it on my Instagram page at 8:30. So at David Radney Push, you can log on to Instagram and just listen to the conversation. And that's going to allow you to see it's a safe space. And then I hope and trust that eventually you would move into the Zoom room. My only requirement is that if you're on Zoom, camera has to be on. I don't like looking at names. I got to look at faces. That's my only requirement. And as you join that call, you'll find out about other things that I do. I have a push training program. I train agents on the listing process, how to master the listing presentation, how to prospect, how to learn scripts, how to overcome objections. Right now, though, I want you to get to know me. And the best way to get to know me is join the free Friday script practice call. See if you like what I'm talking about, if it makes sense. And if it does, and you want to look into what I do further, we can always talk about that later. Right now, though, start plugging into the conversations that we're having. You will grow from being part of it. I would love to have you.
Love it.
All right. That's all I have.
I love it, you guys. I have copied and pasted all this in the live stream. So if you don't get a chance to grab it here quickly, don't worry. Just go to the live stream and EXP Family Tree, grab it. And I'll put all of this stuff out when I post it on my YouTube as well. David, have a great day. You guys,
thank you.
Make it a great week. And hey, tomorrow's Friday. So if you want to join his call and check it out, I'd recommend you do that.
All right. Nikki, nice to meet you. Zelda, thank you for being here. Cari, thank you so much for the opportunity. Appreciate you.
Thank you. See you guys later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.